Hello everybody, Mannix here. Got a knife review on the CRKT Deviation. Very, very interesting, weird, sci-fi-esque, futuristic folding knife. Now you're going to take one look at this thing, if you weren't familiar with it already, and go, whoa, what is that? That's weird. That's kind of cool. I like it. Or you're going to go, ew, and just click on another video immediately because you're already not interested. We buy things and are interested in things with our eyes first. It's very true. You can take one look at something. It could be the best knife ever, the best knife you've ever carried with the best blade steel ever. But if you're not familiar with it and you take one look at it and you don't like the way it looks, in fact, you're repulsed by it, if you find it ugly, you're not going to care. You're not going to care to hear anything about that knife. That goes with anything in life. This is a prime example of that. I happen to think it's beautiful. I happen to think it's really cool, but it is certainly extremely unconventional and weird, for lack of a better term, hence deviation. It certainly deviates from most pocket knives out there, over 99% of them or so. But rest assured, this knife, even if you think it's weird looking, if you think it's not going to be comfortable, if you think it's just going to be terrible, absolutely not. It's actually a very, very surprisingly functional folder despite its looks. But that being said, it's got its quirks. So let's just get the specs out of the way to begin with. Blade length is 3.1 inches. However, the actual cutting edge from my measurements is closer to something around 2.8 inches, which is made of 8CR14 MOV. The thickness of the blade is 0.12 inches. The handle length, or close length, is 4.54 inches, but the overall length is 7.63 inches. The handle material is a 2CR13 stainless steel with a titanium nitride finish. They just added tie-nye finishes on these blue sections. Weighs 6 ounces. Yeah, it's heavy. It's on the IKBS system, which back in the day when these things came out, that was an amazing, amazing new invention, pretty much. But these days, we just kind of refer to it as ball bearing pivots. Really smooth. Liner lock, tip up carry. That pocket clip is swappable to the left side. It is loop over. Retails at $99.99. But you can get these currently as of mid-late 2023, as I'm filming this, for about the $50 range. These seem to be going on sale on a lot of different websites for around the $30 to $35 range. Obviously not a very popular knife. I don't see many people talk about it. But again, I think it's absolutely beautiful. Very futuristic. Looks like it's made out of the most valuable materials ever. Any non-knife person would take a look at this thing and go, whoa, like what is that? But to us knife people, we kind of take a look at this and think it's a gimmick or something. It's not. Absolutely is a very, very functional folder. Just for giggles, let's weigh it on my scale. Let's see what it says here. 5.77 ounces, so a little bit lighter than what their website was claiming, but it's still close to a 6-ounce knife with only a sub 3-inch cutting edge. That's very inefficient. So if you're into your lightweight folders, this is not for you. This is very bad. It pretty much weighs about the same weight as 2 folders would that could arguably have longer cutting edges than this one. So a very inefficient knife as far as weight is concerned. However, with all that stainless steel, we're getting a crap load of strength right here. It's not going to fall apart on you. You can do some really heavy ass work with this thing and you're not going to have any issues. But then again, it is a relatively short cutting edge. So what kind of hard work would you be doing that would require such a strong knife where you wouldn't need that much cutting edge in the first place? It's kind of contradictory, but it deploys really fast. It's a very buttery smooth action. I absolutely love deploying this blade. Great lockup. There is no side to side. There is no up and down. They have a two-tone finish on the blade here. It's all satin, but you can see the striations are going that way in the middle portion of the grind. And then the swedge up here, as well as the grind down here, you can see the striations are vertical rather than horizontal. That's a nice little touch. It's very beautiful looking. I like this Tanto blade we have here. Another thing about the blade finish, it looks like the swedge and the ground portion down here have more of a mirror polish than the satin finish we have on the middle. It's kind of a subdued, as far as most Tantos are concerned. Usually they're a little bit more extreme than that. We have just a tiny, tiny little tip right up here that gives us that signature Tanto shape, but it's not as wide and large as most Tantos are. It's very skinny, which is going to be great for piercing because I have a relatively thick blade right here as far as its grinds are concerned. I love the shape of it, the grinds. It's just very beautiful. It's very cool. Absolutely functional too. Ironically, the blade has so much cut out of it that it's lightweight. We certainly lightened up a lot of this knife by doing the cutout work they did on this blade. But as far as the handle is concerned, it just kind of threw that out the window because it's extremely heavy other than that. but it's going to be a great piercer. It's going to be good for EDC tasks, performing slices. Ergonomics are surprisingly good. It might not look like it, these abrupt corners and turns, the whole futuristic industrial thing we got going on here, but it's actually very, very comfortable. This choil right here, accompanied by the flipper, fits my index finger beautifully like that. This indentation right here fits my thumb very well. This cutout right down here, my two fingers, my middle and ring, actually feels very, very comfortable. And then what I really like, this is a nice little touch. So normally I'm not a huge fan of pocket clips that poke out beyond the handle, although it helps for keeping the knife covert in your pocket. Sometimes I just struggle to take them out of my pocket, and we're going to talk about that in a minute here. And I also don't like how oftentimes they cause hot spots. They poke out and they poke into your hand. This one I actually don't have too much of an issue with. If I was really doing a lot of hard work, that would start to pinch my hand right down here, and I can already feel it. But for just cutting one or two things, it's not a big deal. However, it's not the most comfortable thing in the world. But that being said, it kind of adds a choil right here. If this pocket clip were not here, my pinky would probably be slipping away, but it keeps my pinky in place. It extends past the handle and accommodates my pinky right there. So that's actually a really, really cool, nice touch. Killed two birds with one stone with that right there. That's really cool. And yes, like I said, it's swappable to the left side. There's two cutouts right there. You can see it slips in right there through underneath the handle. So if you like your covert blades, this is a good one. Despite it being super shiny and gleaming, there's going to be nothing poking out of your pocket whatsoever because it's literally poking past the handle right there. Flow through design adds to its elegance, I suppose. No jimping or cutouts anywhere other than the liner lock itself, but I don't really feel like I need it because my hand's so locked into this thing. It feels so sturdy. It's actually not like slippery at all like you might imagine. It's very, very comfortable. It really locks my hand in. Very surprisingly good ergonomics on this guy. Reverse grip is okay. It's not fantastic, but it's better than some other knives out there. I love that big old flipper we have right there. Deploys every single time, accompanied by that IKBS system. There's no issues with that whatsoever. We have a relatively strong ball bearing detent in the liner lock right there. You can hear that snap into place. One thing I don't like about it is because that detent is so strong, we have a very tough, kind of tight liner lock. So what happens is, although it's very smooth as we disengage the blade and try to close it, right here it kind of gets caught up. It feels almost like a half stop. You ever remember those things? Half stops on lockbacks, like the old model Cold Steel Voyagers? It kind of gets obstructed in the way and you have to force it again to go through. I don't like that, but without that, we probably wouldn't have such a good lockup, so I have to kind of forgive it for that. Other than that, it's very smooth. I just don't like how we have somewhat of a half stop because I feel like I have to force it down. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. I do like the cutouts on the line right there. That's really cool. Aesthetically, it looks sweet. Very functional too. Always bites into my thumb every single time. So we have a very good deployment. It's really smooth. It's really fast. We have great ergonomics. It's very strong. We have a really good lockup for being a liner lock anyway. I kind of wish it was a frame lock, but we wouldn't be able to get away with some of this design right here, and that would make it significantly more expensive, I would imagine. So we kept costs down. 8CR14 MOV. It's 8CR13 MOV, but with a little bit more chromium content, meaning it's going to have a little bit more corrosion resistance, a little bit more rust resistance. It'll look a little prettier, a little bit nicer, but it may not get quite as sharp and may not retain its edge as well as the 8CR13 MOV, which is notoriously used on the budget Spydercos, the Tenacious, the Resilience, Persistence, Ambitious, and a whole lot of other knives out there. Middle ground, middle of the road, blade steel, budget friendly, not amazing, but it works good enough for everyday tasks. And yes, even defense. I say this all the time, but you can get a very cheap blade steel, get it really, really sharp, keep it sharp, and if that dark and rainy day ever comes and you had to use your knife to defend your life, that blade will work just fine for you. I promise you, even really, really cheap blades, as long as you get it sharp. It may not retain an edge very long, but if you're not, cutting through 100 different attackers, you don't necessarily need a great blade steel that takes a very long time to lose its edge. But that being said, you do have to resharpen the softer steels more. That's just how that works. But then again, if you get a blade steel that retains an edge for a very long time, generally speaking, you have to spend a much longer time to resharpen it. So pick your poison. And you save a lot of money with the softer steels too. And then because we have this other choil right here, we can scooch up, bite right in there, although my finger's getting kind of uncomfortably close to that cutting edge. It's not going to cut it or anything, but if I slipped forward or something, that would be a very, very bad day. But for precise work, you could certainly use it for that. I do really love it when knives take advantage of the second choil, the precision grip we can use on it. And again, still very comfortable even in that grip. You can see it carries just like that. So comfortable, so cool looking, so geometric and futuristic, shiny, beautiful, sexy. Just really, really cool knife. For the price range, you could do better as far as tactical blades are concerned. Yeah, you could get something that's a little bit grippier. You could certainly get something a lot lighter. You could get something for a longer cutting edge. You could get something with possibly a better blade steel, D2, but we're sacrificing some function over form. In fact, we're sacrificing a lot of it. It's very heavy, and we don't have a whole lot of cutting edge here in comparison to the weight and the overall size we do have here. It's not a slippery knife by any means. I still think this could function as a tactical blade, absolutely, because it's so fast, because of how sturdy it is, and those ergonomics and choils alone really help lock your hand in there. So although I'm usually not crazy about metal folders, I think they're slippery, they're heavy, they don't wear as well, they scratch very easily, and they tend to be more expensive than the polymers. We have an unnecessary extra amount of strength on the handle, basically. Yeah, it's stronger than a polymer handle, but what do you need that much handle strength for? But the sheer design, the ergonomics of it, I think make it fit into the tactical role. The only real big issue I do have with this knife is the pocket clip. So I don't mind the way it looks, it carries beautifully, but when it comes to extracting it, if your pants are too thin, I don't know what it is, on certain pairs of pants this does not do well. When I try to pull the knife out of my pocket, what happens is because it's loop over and because I don't have an extra butt of the handle to grab onto, my fingers naturally just end up grabbing the rest of the pocket material. So when I'm attempting to pull this out of my pocket, I'm just tugging the rest of the pocket material up as well, and I'm getting nowhere. So I have to kind of babysit it and just touch the pocket clip, make sure my hand's avoiding all of the other fabric, and then I can carefully draw it out. On certain pants, that's not an issue, but on some of them it is. I don't really know why. It could be how low the elevation on the pocket clip is in comparison to the handle scale. It could be these cutouts in here, as you can see. Not really sure, but not very good extraction on this knife in certain pairs of pants. So we just have to give that a hit. Most other knives have no issues whatsoever with extraction in any pairs of pants or any clothing. But for whatever reason, this guy's picky. This bolster area right here around the pivot screw, that's so beautiful. It's so cool. I can't get over how cool this knife looks. So let's recap. It's heavy as hell. Yeah, it's a brick. There's no cutouts or jimping anywhere, but I can forgive it for that because we have very good ergonomics. It's sturdy. Very, very good ergonomics. I'm very, very impressed with that. We have multiple options of holding this knife and wielding it. Blade is beautiful and very functional too. Very good piercer. It's going to be strong and sturdy because it's so thick for its size anyway. Deployment is A+. It's very smooth. No issues with that. It's completely manual, by the way, if you didn't get that by now. It's ambidextrous other than the liner lock. Some people argue liner locks are not ambidextrous. You have to disengage them in a slightly different way. You got to pull the liner towards your hand and then use your finger to close the blade, but if you're lefty, I'm sure you can get used to that relatively quickly. Very covert. A lot of people love their loop over clips, and they especially love them when they protrude past the handle. I'm not typically a huge fan of that because, like I just explained, they can be difficult to extract in certain circumstances, and this one sometimes is. You may get lucky with this one and all your pants, this just magically works well with you, but your pants may not agree with this knife either. Some of mine do, some of mine don't. I don't know why that is. Because you can find these on sale, again, for 30 to 35 bucks, that's a home run. For the $50 range, it's still not a bad price. It's just you can get something a lot more functionally. Again, you get something way lighter with a longer cutting edge, with probably a stronger locking mechanism, something that's got a traction plan on it, something that doesn't have any fussy issues with the pocket clip, something with a more familiar design. That's true, we are paying a little bit extra here and we're losing some function. I still really like it. I still think it's a great knife, but we could do a little better if we're talking about sheer function over form. And if you don't like the way it looks, you could do better. I would just steer clear of this one. But if you do like the way it looks, hey, pick one up. You might really like it. That is the CRKT Deviation, one of my favorite knives for sheer form. Very, very cool looking blade. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to subscribe, hit that little bell notification if you do not want to miss weekly knife and gun videos. Thank you so much for watching. Mannix out.